All right, we are looking at the December 11th slate for Wednesday of the season 2024-2025. It's a small slate, especially for a Wednesday because of the NBA Cup. So we just have a couple of Eastern Conference NBA Cup matchups to look at. So we're going to look at those. We got two games on the slate. Atlanta Hawks playing the Knicks in New York. And then we got Houston at home playing Golden State. One of my favorite strategies, one of the best things I think you can do is kind of create a narrative of these games in your head going in, and then you can play accordingly. If you don't do that, sometimes you end up with conflicting players. Like you might say, hey, this player's going to do great on this team, but it doesn't correlate with something else that you're doing because you haven't played the game out in your mind yet. So we have Atlanta, New York. The over-under on the Atlanta, New York game is 238, very high. We like that. The spread is 7, which is not great. So we have New York favored to win by 7. If this gets to 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, I mean, this could be a situation where teams aren't playing their guys at the end of the game. So that's something to be aware of. The Houston Golden State game is much closer, a 2-point game with Houston favored by 2 and a 222 over-under number, which is decent, but not terrible. So some things to look at here as well. Alperen Sengun is questionable, so he may not play. So as you play these game scripts out in your head, you can say, okay, I'm going to say that Sengun is not going to play, and I'm going to have a strategy ready if Sengun's not going to play for tomorrow. So if Sengun's not going to play, then maybe you say, okay, Golden State's going to win this game. It's going to be maybe a lower point total, but we're going to flip the spread to a Golden State 4-point win rather than a Rockets 2-point win. The other one that may not play is we have Trae Young as a game time decision, but he should play. Karl-Anthony Towns is a game time decision. Expected to suit up though. Josh Hart is a game time decision and may miss his first game of the season. We're looking at that for New York. It may not change the over-under, the totals that much if Josh Hart misses, but there might be some value that we find in that game. So I'm looking at the Atlanta-New York game. I'm thinking that Vegas is probably right in that over-under. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game that's going to push New York kind of out of their comfort zone. Atlanta's the fastest pace in the league. New York is the slowest pace in the league. So Vegas is essentially saying that New York can't slow Atlanta down, but they're still going to beat them. The pace is still going to be very fast. New York's going to have to play fast, and if they do, that's going to be much higher fantasy point totals than you're used to seeing out of New York. So if that's the case, if Trae Young is able to push Jalen Brunson to the max on pace, we're going to get 4 or 5, maybe 6 extra possessions from Jalen Brunson that we wouldn't normally get in a regular season game against another slower paced team. So I like Jalen Brunson in this game. I like his size against Trae Young. I like his footwork against Trae Young. I think that Trae Young is going to be a liability in this game. They'll probably try to hide him off the ball. But I think Jalen Brunson's smart enough. He's going to take advantage of it, getting cross matches, be able to take people off the dribble. I really like Jalen Brunson in this game. He's projected on RotoWire to hit 43.2 points per game at an $8,500 salary. That does hit value at 5. If we give him a little bump for pace, then I think we can see an even higher number, 45, 46, being that it's almost like a playoff game, being in the Cup. Jalen Brunson always shines in those games. He shines at home. Those are great, all great scenarios. Jalen Brunson checks every box for me tomorrow. So in a showdown style format that we're going to have to play tomorrow, I really like Jalen Brunson as a potential captain for my team tomorrow. The other people to keep in mind, Karl-Anthony Towns could hit great value. He's at 9,700, but projected at 54 fantasy points. Let's look at his last few games. His last few fantasy point totals have been 60, 55, 45, 45, 47. Looks like his splits look better on the road than they do at home. Jalen Brunson's last 4 games have been 43, 53, 37, 28, 32, 52, 54, 54. So I still like Jalen Brunson. I'm not quite ready to lock him in, but I'm getting close to locking him in as my captain. Let's look at the other game. If we think Golden State's going to do what Vegas thinks they're going to do, lose by 2, it's going to be a tight game. Might get some extra minutes for the starters, being that it's a cup game. Steph Curry kind of leads the way in value for the Warriors at 9,500 with a 43 fantasy point projection. He's under the 5 number. Sengun, if he does play, is 50 projected fantasy points at a $9,200 salary. We should see value there at 5.44. There's one narrative that you say, hey, Houston's young. They really want to win this cup. They care more about it than maybe Golden State, who just wants to win rings. Maybe they, find a little extra in the tank to come out. And if that's the case, maybe you see a higher over-under. Take the over. Maybe it's a little bit bigger of a spread, maybe a 6-8 point game with the Rockets leading the way because, they're young and they want to get, something like this might mean more to them than it does to a team like Golden State. So if that's the narrative that you play, maybe, and Sengun does play, then maybe you take Sengun as your captain. Your other options in Houston would be Fred VanVleet, kind of a heady guard who, think back to his March Madness run. Maybe he harnesses that kind of playoff temperament and you get to, he's projected close to value. Those are the guys that I would look at when I'm looking to find a captain. So let's assume that we're going to say that New York's going to be playing faster than they've ever played. Brunson's going to be handling the ball more. He's going to be in cross matches the whole game. Let's assume that narrative plays out. Trae Young can't stay in front of him. If he doesn't match up with Trae Young, Atlanta's still going to have issues. And Jalen Brunson's going to tear up Atlanta in the pick and roll. So we're going to play that narrative out. Jalen Brunson's going to have a heck of a game, playing faster than he normally plays, getting more possessions. So we're going to lock him in right now as our captain. So we're going to pay 1.5 for him. Now we got to look for value because we're going to have to pay up to get Jalen Brunson in there. Now we've got to find value. So there's always value when players are out. So if you have, let's say, I'm thinking Sengun's going to play, but if he doesn't play, let's look at who we got. Jock Landale would be a huge one with Steven Adams also questionable. There could be a potential where Jock Landale is the only real center that plays tomorrow for Houston. So he's always a great points per minute guy. So I would definitely look at playing him, even maybe if Sengun is out, or even if he does play. Let's look at Landale. All right, yeah, I like Landale. Let's look at some other value propositions. We have Josh Hart, could be a game time decision. Kind of is looking doubtful for now, but monitor it tomorrow, obviously. If he's out, then we can get Miles McBride or Cameron Payne. Miles McBride's going to be at 4,100, projecting 22.9 fantasy points. That's great value. Either way, he's projected at 22 minutes. He's projected. He's projected to get 22 fantasy points, even if we get playing time from Josh Hart. Other great value on the board. We have. Let's see if we just sort fantasy hacker by value. We can see OG Anunoby, 200. He might be your other kind of stud that you play. Close to 6 on the value chart. Jabari Smith, 5,300, might be. He's kind of in that no man's land where he's not value, and he doesn't have pop-off potential. Miles McBride, you got to lock him into your lineup tomorrow. OG, I'd lock in. I'm ready to lock in. I'm ready to lock in Jalen Brunson. And then looking at other potential value plays, like Dylan Brooks at 4,400. Fantasy value of 5.57. Kevin Looney for Golden State. Looking at 5.2 on the fantasy value. He's only 4,000. Trace Jackson Davis for Golden State, 3,800, projected close to 5 on the value, but he's going to save you some money. Those would be the building blocks that I would start with tomorrow. I'm going to obviously monitor these injury situations. As these injury situations become more clear, there's going to be more value that opens up. But tomorrow, lock it in. Miles McBride is a lock, and Jalen Brunson's a lock at my captain. And that's how I'm probably going to roll tomorrow and then fill it out with value from the other guys. So thank you guys for watching. That's going to be the way we play tomorrow. Everybody follow the injuries all day, and that'll get the other value. Thanks, guys.